Hello YouTube, it is your boy B3 back with another kicking movie reaction review. We're also joined by Pip the dog. Say hello, Pip. She's begging for treats right now.
You can't have treats yet. You can't have treats right now. Oh.
But, yeah, today we're doing kind of another slashery film. It's called Bonejangles. Oh, somebody wants love. That's enough, girl. But, Bonejangles, she's so cute.
You can't do this now, girl.
Bonejangles is a 2017 horror comedy. It's about an hour, 18 minutes. There are several places where you can watch it, including Vudu, Amazon Prime Video, YouTube, Google Play Movies and TV, and I believe that to be all. She's going crazy. What are you doing, girl? I'm sorry, she's just so cute. Quick read-up. While transporting the legendary serial killer Bonejangles to an asylum, police officers break down in a town cursed with demons and zombies. The only way they can survive the night is to release Bonejangles to help them. Sounds pretty cool, right? They capture a slasher villain, and then they have to use him to defeat something worse. Cool concept, right? It sucks. It's really bad. I thought this was going to be the coolest movie. And then it was just absolute shit. It's also nowhere said it was a horror comedy. When I did my research for like behind the scenes stuff on Google, it said it was just horror. Here on Prime Video where I watched it, it says it's horror suspense. But the film is mostly comedy. And I've said it to you guys many times, I am not a fan of horror comedies. I'm just not. I don't like them. I really, really don't. And I didn't like this one. I really didn't. It's directed by Brett DeJager, screenplay by Keith Melcher. Fuck Keith Melcher, and I'll get to more of that soon. Producer Zeke Hansen and cinematography Sean O'Connell. It's starring Brett DeJager, and he doesn't have a credit on my list here, so I'm assuming he plays Bonejangles. And then Julia Kavanaugh. We also have Kelly Misk Jr., Lawrence Wayne Curry, Jamie Scott Gordon. Jamie Scott Gordon is actually the writer-director of Lord of Tears. Love Jamie Scott Gordon as a writer and director. As an actor, he kind of leaves something to be desired. We got Reggie Bannister and Alyssa Dowling as our main cast members of sorts. Yeah, there was basically... Oh my god. There's basically nothing good about this movie. Sorry about that, I just let the dog outside. She's been barking a lot more than usual recently. She kept me up all night barking. But yeah, I found nothing very redeeming about Bonejangles. It was shit. It was absolute shit. So, one thing about exploitation films like this, which is what it is low-budget movies often have a lot of sexual content because they take the saying, sex sells to heart. And when I see a movie that's full of sexual content that doesn't really serve the story any, or serve any purpose at all, it makes me think the creators of this film did not believe in it. So they put a bunch of sex in to get a bunch of cheap watches from people who are too repressed to watch porn. Yeah, so when a movie just fills itself with sexual content for no reason, especially a low-budget one like this, and horror comedies seem to be extremely guilty of this. Exploitation horror films are already pretty guilty of this, but horror comedies are extra guilty of this for some reason. Just all that pointless sex makes me feel like they don't believe in their story enough for it to be what sells the movie. Sorry. Our costumes and cosmetics in this film are not very good either. The police officer outfits look like they were bought at Party City. And the weird thing is this was shot on like a very high quality camera. It was shot on a Red. I've used Reds on music videos and stuff I've worked on in my more professional film life. When that used to be my career. They're good cameras. It's like they just spent everything on the damn cameras or something. Because like the outfits are no good. And then we got the cosmetics and stuff. They're pretty bad. Like, whenever someone loses a limb, their limb extends by about a foot. Like, if someone gets their hand chopped off in this movie, then the length of their arm extends by about a foot. Because they just didn't have a clever way to hide a limb, I guess. It was really a pretty shitty film. And then we also have Bonejangles himself, the supernatural serial killer. He has a look that was probably really cool in concept, but then in execution, his look didn't really work out as good as I thought. Because you see here on Prime Video, you can see an image of Bojangles' face, and he looks pretty cool, but he's actually kind of lacking in the film, sadly. That's not super great. We also have a bunch of zombies. The read-up on Google and on Prime Video says there are demons. There are not demons. I also read a read-up somewhere that said there were ghosts. That was also completely untrue. There's a witch/succubus, there's zombies, and there's Bonejangles. And he's supernatural because his serial killer dad had sex with his mother, who was like a voodoo priest. So he came out like immortal. But he has two weaknesses. One is electricity, which the world knows about. And they use that to catch him in the beginning of the film. They use tasers because guns don't have effect on him. The other one, only Bonejangles knows, and it's sex. Apparently, when he has sex, his supernatural powers go away. So he's like a virgin and all this stuff. Once again, pointless sex stuff. Because, I mean, when I describe it, it seems like it's not pointless, but trust me, it is. That weakness is pointless. And there are also a couple times towards the end where Bojangles has this one line of dialogue that's supposed to be kind of funny, and there's this part where it looks like he's going to get blown. And I always say this about horror comedies. If the thing that is supposed to be horrifying is not played 100% straight, then it ceases to have any impact, horror-wise. You can't, let's take a look at Young Frankenstein. Let's just segue and talk about Young Frankenstein for half a second. Young Frankenstein works because it's not a horror comedy. It's just a straight-up parody. It's full comedy. It's not... I hear people call it a horror comedy all the time. It's not a horror comedy. It's a comedy making fun of horror films. Like how Scary Movie isn't a horror comedy. It's just comedy. Right? Even though Scary Movie sucks ass. They all do. They all do. Scary Movie, epic movie, disaster movie, superhero movie. They all suck. Scary Movie 2, 3, 4, etc. All bad. So, those aren't horror comedies. They're just comedies making fun of horror. Horror comedies are horror that also have a comedic element. And those two things are just, when it comes to genres, they're on opposite ends of the spectrum, horror and comedy. So it's very, very hard to make a horror comedy and it work. It's almost impossible, in my opinion. It just doesn't really work. But yeah, Bonejangles could have been just this could have been just a cool, unique slasher film, but they had to, most of the jokes are bad. The acting is terrible. Like, the sets and locations are actually fine. I didn't really have a problem with them. But now, let's talk about some other things to do with the writing here. Once again, the jokes are awful. Characters are written poorly. I'm not sure there's anyone who's really likable. There's like one sympathetic female character from our protagonist's hometown that was like the one that got away. And I guess she's the only one that's kind of sympathetic because the characters are written so poorly, and I don't know what it is with low-budget horror, but they just, for some reason, lots of low-budget horror films just don't have likable characters. I don't know why, they just don't. Like, in a horror film, I feel like I shouldn't be rooting for characters to die, except for, like, maybe, like, the one human character that's the bad guy or something. Because, like, in this film, I should have been rooting for everybody except the jerk fiancé, who's, like, cheating on his to-be wife at her own wedding, and he's a jerk to everybody and hasn't matured since high school. Like, that's the guy you want to be like, alright, when the serial killer kills him, it'll be real satisfying. But your film will have more of an impact if you don't want these people to die. If you care about these people and you're like, man, I hope they get out of this, then when they get killed, it's like, oh man, I actually feel something. This movie's making me feel something. This movie doesn't make you feel goddamn anything but rage. And it's also incredibly sexist and incredibly homophobic. It's insanely sexist and homophobic to several degrees. Women, like, okay, so we have our kind of female protagonist who is basically treated as property in the film. We have the female cop who is just like this mean, bitchy slut, which is a horrible, horrible stereotype. It's quite awful. Lots of the humor, especially in the first half of the film, is like gay jokes. Not like, there can be humor about gay people that's tasteful. I'm by myself, okay? I understand that nearly everything on this planet can be made fun of, right? I mean, I'm probably never going to make fun of something like rape or anything like that, but, like, I've made fun of my sexuality plenty. But the gay jokes in this film are, like, the kind where it's like, if you're gay, you're less of a person, and etc. And then there is just, like, a straight-up gay character. One of the cops is this super effeminate, like, gay man. Such a huge, huge stereotype. He basically does nothing in the film. And he survives till the end. He's just there for you to point and say, ha ha, look how gay he is. And it's fucking disgusting that they wrote that character this way. This movie is awful. Also, sending the cops to do their thing doesn't make sense, okay? So they're taking Bonejangles to the only asylum that will take him. And it's hundreds of miles away, and the cops are like, we don't want to drive hundreds of miles with a supernatural serial killer that's almost completely invincible and is immortal in the back of the car. And then the guy who says that gets called a pussy, and I was like, how is that being a pussy? That's being smart as shit. And luckily the head cop in charge, who's just at the beginning of the movie, understood that and was like, the people from the asylum are meeting you halfway, and he's going to be heavily, heavily, heavily sedated, like elephant level sedated. But the town they meet halfway in is our protagonist's hometown, which is cursed. Every April 18th, the dead rise and attack the town. Every April 18th. And the dude doesn't want to meet halfway in the town, not because of the zombies, but because his ex-girlfriend lives there. And he doesn't want to confront her. Dude forgot all about the zombies. Like, he doesn't tell them about it until they get there and the zombies are basically already attacking. And they're like, why didn't you tell us? You knew we were coming here. You knew the dates. Why didn't you tell us? And he's like, I forgot. How do you forget growing up in a town where zombies attack once every year? How do you fucking forget that? You ass. It turns out it's this vengeance thing from this immortal succubus and all this stuff. And she gets killed pretty damn easily. Bonejangles kills her in one shot. It's not interesting. And then, check this out, right? As soon as Bonejangles kills her, he gets struck by lightning and goes down. And then we don't even see what happens to Bonejangles after that. Such a weird ex machina, just him being struck by lightning, which you see in the trailer, so you know that's how he gets taken out. I'm so pissed. I'm actually mad. So then he gets downed by the lightning, and we never see what happens to him. We don't know if the lightning killed him because he's vulnerable to electricity. We don't know if he was then sent to the asylum because there's nothing seen or said about Bonejangles, after that. It's an all-around shit film. I think I've only said 3 good things about it, and two of them are only half compliments. The only 3 good things I can think to say are, Bonejangles seems like he had a good design, like when he was being created, but it wasn't executed well. The idea for the movie is really cool. If it wasn't a horror comedy and they actually focused on making it scary and good instead of just trying to get cheap laughs off of gay and sex jokes and having a ton of sexually explicit content in it for no reason because they didn't believe in their story, this could have been a good film because it was actually a really cool idea, just executed in the worst possible way. And 3, the sets and locations weren't bad. They were pretty standard. That's it. That's all I can say. We got freaking low-budget Scarlett Johansson in this movie, who's the only decent actor in the entire thing. Bonejangles from 2017 is absolute shit. I do not recommend it on any grounds. It's not even so bad it's good. It's just straight up bad. Don't watch Bonejangles. You will regret it. That is it. Thank you all very much for your support. Please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. Check out all the links in the description below, Facebook, Twitter, etc. I think next time I'm finally going to do Friday the 13th Part 2. I kind of forgot it was in my rentals. So I need to do Friday the 13th Part 2 pretty much the next movie before I run out of days on it. Because, once again, I did just rent it, so I don't want to run out of time on it. But soon I'll also be watching the remake of Plan 9 from Outer Space, which is a parody, a full parody, I think. So I'm sure I'll enjoy it more. Also very soon I want to do The Black Gloves. And I want to do a Rake movie. I got a couple Rake movies that I want to do. I also want to do Plaguers and Rendell. Those are all coming very soon. So that's it. Thank you all once again for your support, and I'll see you all next time.